G'day everyone, Artist Wayne here on day 2 of our Blaze of Glory adventure ride. Location, Denman. Still had a bit of grit in our teeth from yesterday's dusty trails and maybe a few fuzzy heads from a little too much grog the night before. Put your tummy tucker on. Makes you look slimmer, eh? Big adventure ride day 2. All packed up, we fired up our bikes and set off on our epic journey. About 200 metres up the road to the local cafe, because no adventure can begin without the sacred ritual, coffee and bacon. Some riders clock up thousands of Ks crossing deserts and mountains. Not us, we conquered the mighty Denman main street. A one-way street we tried entering the wrong way yesterday. It's a one-way street. See, adventure riders can learn. It only takes one near miss with an angry local to straighten us out. Here's where we meet the boys, the local cafe, our launch pad to glory. Step 1, caffeine, cholesterol and misplaced confidence.
I'll just have water for breakfast. I'm fasting.
Step 2, fill our tanks with explosive juice and say a sad farewell to our mate Tyson, Texas Ranger. Rolling out of Denman, the road stretched ahead through some truly beautiful countryside. The early morning air crisp, the scenery rolling by. It was almost too peaceful. After yesterday's big adventure, this sort of smooth road riding can lull a rider into a trance. The steady drone of the engine, the warmth of the morning sun. Honestly, I was half a yawn away from a nap already. What we really needed wasn't a lullaby, it was dirt. Hill climbs, mud and mayhem. Nothing wakes you up quite like the sudden jolt of a back wheel spinning in the muck. Because this wasn't just a ride home, this was our Saturday morning caffeine hit, adventure rider style. But before launching into mud, madness and mayhem, we decided to squeeze in a little culture. Adventure riding isn't just about hill climbs, it's about history too. So we headed over to the Biami Aboriginal Rock Art Cave, a place that's been here for thousands of years. You could almost feel the stories etched into the stone. It was quite a moment of reflection, a reminder of how small we are in the grand scheme of things, and also how badly we needed to get back on the bikes before we stiffened up completely. From ancient art to modern chaos, our sightseeing was done. Time to trade rock paintings for rock-strewn tracks. And as we follow Mad Mal, here I am thinking, isn't that the trail right there? Nah, couldn't be. Mal knows where he's going, right? Or perhaps Mal's got a better plan for getting us lost. Either way, it's always an adventure. So fresh from our cultural awakening at the caves, we put our trust in Mad Mal to lead us to our next big adventure. Big mistake. 5 minutes later, we realised Mal wasn't leading us to adventure, he was leading us away from it. Turns out we weren't on the right trail at all. We were on the scenic route to nowhere. Classic Mal. If getting lost was a competition, Mal would be the undefeated world champ. So we did what all adventure riders do best. We turned around, backtracked, and called it exploring. Well, we did when Mal finally unblocked the track. Honestly, I've seen cruise ships turn faster than Mal and his KTM. So off we went, back on track, literally. And we tucked in behind Mel once again, confident we were finally on the proper trail. Mainly because it looked suspiciously like the track we rode past 5 minutes ago. Here we were, finally, on the right track, ready to pull up shortly and regroup. The irony, this right track was the one where everything would go wrong. Because out here, things can change in an instant. One wrong line, one slippery rut, one moment's lapse, and you can find yourself in a world of trouble. That's the thing about adventure riding. It's equal parts laughter, chaos, and risk. Because the right trail isn't always the safe one. So when our sweep rider Shonky Sean arrived and we were all regrouped and ready, we set off to conquer our first big hill climb. Our first big challenge for the day. Our fearless leader Mad Mal the Pin Chicken in front, followed by Anthony the Dingus, then yours truly. And bringing up the rear was Santiago and our sweep rider Shonky Sean. Yesterday we were the Magnificent Seven, and today's budget sequel, well, we're the Adequate Five. As we climbed a hill so rocky, steep and slippery, it looked more like the moon than a trail. Honestly, I'm still not sure how we all stayed upright. Every line was the wrong one, well, at least for me it was. Every rock was out to kill us, and traction was just a rumour. But somehow, we would make it. You know, the funniest thing about riding is this. You can muscle your way up the nastiest, ugliest climbs without dropping the bike. Then half an hour later, someone might stack it on the flattest, friendliest bit of track. That there, my fellow adventure riders, is the cruelest joke of motorcycling. You just can't prepare yourself for what's going to jump up and bite you on the arse. 1 second you're cruising, the next second you're cartwheeling. It's like I said yesterday, motorcycling is dangerous. Most sports play with one ball, we definitely play with two. The only sport where your skill level doesn't matter. Gravity always wins in the end. So, after finishing our Rocky Horror hill climb, we once again regrouped at the top. Now I should point out that, just like yesterday, we were not using the cornerman system. We were just regrouping at regular intervals on the track. I mean, it worked a treat yesterday. Well, sort of. Everyone eventually turned up. Eventually. But our system was simple. Ride hard, get lost, wait around until the rest of the mob showed up. Honestly, it's more of a social experiment than a system. But here's the thing about adventure riding. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. In fact, it's perfect. Afterwards, everyone knows exactly what we should have done, which way we should have gone, and how we could have avoided all the trouble. Plenty of people will point out where we went wrong, and they're right. In hindsight, it all seems so obvious. But out here, in the middle of it, you don't have hindsight. You've got dust in your eyes, sweat in your helmet, and chaos unfolding at 60 k's an hour. And so, somewhere between this stretch of trail and our next half-assed meeting point, Santiago would crash his T7. None of us saw it happen, not even our sweep rider. And that's the crazy part. Out here you can be just minutes apart on the same track and still feel like you're riding in different worlds. But this story isn't so much about the crash itself, it's about what happened afterwards. You see, we didn't find Santiago. We regrouped, we waited, we backtracked, we second-guessed, but it was other riders, strangers, who came across our fallen comrade. That's adventure riding for you, a mix of mateship, chaos, and sometimes a little bit of luck from complete strangers. Our half-assed regroup system worked yesterday, but today it worked about as well as Mal's sense of direction. It's not funny at the time, but looking back, hindsight once again, it was a perfect storm of mix-ups. Proof that if something can go pear-shaped, it usually will. It all kicked off when Mal stopped to remove a bug from his eye.
It's such a good track, this. Huh? It's such a good track that most people don't ever do. Yeah.
Poor bloke, one moment you're leading the charge, next you're in a fist fight with an insect. Adventure riding, 90% terrain, 10% wildlife ambushes. He wins the battle with the bug, but it set the stage for everything that followed. While Mal pulled over, the others regrouped with him. I was now out in front, riding solo, just like I was in Yango National Park yesterday. None of us had any idea that just up the track here, Santiago's day was about to end very differently. Of course, I only know this now because of hindsight. At the time, it was just another stretch of trail, rocks, ruts, dust, nothing unusual. But it was just up here that poor Santiago would spear off the track and come to a complete stop after hitting a tree. This tree. And it didn't happen that far from where I was now waiting, at a T-intersection. First Mal turned up, then Anthony, then our sweet Sean. All good, or so I thought. Now here's where the confusion began. I just assumed Santiago was tucked in right behind Shonky Sean. So off I went again, Anthony following me. Meanwhile, Mal and Sean hung back for a while, both of them thinking Santiago was in front of me. In other words, I thought he was behind Sean, they thought he was in front of me. And Santiago? Well, he was actually somewhere else entirely. So Anthony the dingus and I continued on, and we dropped straight down into a steep, rocky valley, which would eventually open up into a big, giant, oval-sized, grassy swamp. Now, to most people, a big-ass grassy swamp would look like a boggy nightmare. To us, though, it looked like the perfect stage for carnage. Of course, I would make sure all my cameras were running, just in case I f***ed up. And of course, once we got to the other side, we planned to lay in wait. Because if your mates are about to eat mud, you'd better get it on film. Anthony and I were safely through, so now we waited for the other three boys to arrive.
Anthony's just adding some obstacles.
Eventually, Mal and Shonky Sean turned up. Mal pulled his KTM up in completely the wrong spot, or maybe the right one if you're trying to stage the perfect YouTube thumbnail.
You're committed now! You're committed now! Do it!
The two of them sat there scoping out the swamp like it was the Mariana Trench. Sean went first, smooth as you like, not a splash, no drama. Then it was Mal's turn. Now Mal's KTM really needs a reverse gear, because watching him wrestle that bike backwards and forwards was like watching a forklift in a phone box.
Right on the bed!
Where's Santiago? Gotta hand it to Anthony. He really looks after me. Look at that. Thanks,
That was when you
Anthony.
flash roll.
Thanks, Anthony.
So the boys powered on up the hill, convinced Santiago was still in front, and we stayed back at the swamp, waiting patiently for our third victim. And after a while, the other boys came back.
Santiago right around or something, we could hear a voice.
Santiago was in front of us.
Was
He couldn't have been.
he?
He was, I stopped.
Did he go straight then?
Straight where?
Or with that turn off?
No, because I was the first one to that turn off and I waited.
Yeah.
So how could he have...
Was Santiago at that turn off?
No. I thought he was behind Sean. I thought he had to have been behind Sean.
I stopped and you guys overtook me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sean and I were last.
No, he mustn't have gone past you guys at all.
I haven't seen him since the cave because I thought he was in front. There was you and
No, but he
you
came up the hill, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was up the hill.
Yeah.
after the cave where we took that wrong turn and we came back and we took that left, hard left. Was he with anyone there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were all regrouped at the bottom of the hill. All of us, because we waited for you.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah,
And so we all went up the hill.
that's right.
Yeah.
The only spot that whoever was riding near him was at that sort of cross section or whatever where you stopped, and I just pulled up a little bit. Then everyone came. I'm pretty sure I saw him at that turn off there, and then
All right. So I just checked the last turn off that he could have gone goes out to the putty back there.
Yeah, that's where we reckon he went.
So I reckon we go up here, go to the putty, and see if he's down there.
yeah.
I'll put it in my thingamajiggy.
Yeah, so
now you made me come all the way down that shitty f***ing hill for no reason.
somehow he must have been behind and just been so far behind, and
But I was pretty sure that where he was there when we stopped.
but he must have come. You were the second bike.
That's right. And I just went up there.
I didn't see him. Then I left and Sean pulled up, and then you were behind Sean, weren't you, or not?
I was in
Or were you behind
You
me?
turn around in that mud pit.
Yeah, I'll just go in there and back it up.
Just go straight through. The best way.
Yeah, you got to go. You might as well go and turn it around in there, Sean. Is my camera on?
Start filming here, I think he's coming off.
No, I'm not.
Hang
I'm
on.
not coming off.
Look at Sean. Yep. He's in all sorts of colours. It's easier to ride through that.
Momentum up this next hill.
Go back up the hill, back up.
And then right to the putty road.
So go to where we stopped.
So we're almost out, are we?
Ahead,
Oh, you were at
turn
that.
right.
Why don't we just regroup up the top?
Yeah, regroup up the top where we were.
So now the stage was set and our tragic little play was about to unfold. Anthony and I had front row seats for what should have been YouTube gold, but the star of the show never appeared. Turns out the swamp wouldn't claim any victims today. Santiago's crash had already happened. But once again, that's hindsight talking. At the time, we thought he'd blasted straight through the last intersection. The funny thing is, it takes a while before you realise something isn't quite right. Maybe it's denial, maybe it's hope. You push it away, tuck it into the deep recesses of your mind. He's fine, he's just behind. He'll pop up any second. We honestly believe Santiago had somehow dropped behind and then missed that unmarked turn. It happens all the time out here. Riders get separated, regroup, catch up, no big deal. And besides, if something had have happened, surely our sweet rider would have noticed. That's the job, right? But the truth was, Santiago had gone down hard. He'd fallen so far off the track, nobody saw a thing. Not me, not Mal, not Anthony, not even Sean. He'd simply vanished from our world, whilst we kept searching, just not in the right place. So after riding out of the valley, we hit the Putty Road. A road I must admit I absolutely hate. But we were fully expecting to find Santiago there waiting for us, mad as hell that no one had marked the corner. But he wasn't. My fellow adventure riders, this is when the confusion really began. Anthony and I backtracked up the mountain towards the last turn-off, thinking maybe Santiago had doubled back, as the other two headed down the Putty Road to the gate leading into Yengo National Park, hoping he was there instead. We thought we were being clever, dividing and conquering. In reality, we were just dividing the chaos.
I reckon he would have come through there. He would have gone down there.
I reckon we need to go back a bit further though.
You reckon?
Because he wasn't here.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just a fire trail. I mean,
Yeah, maybe his bike broke down or fucking stacked or you don't know.
yeah, but I've got a feeling that because no one marked that corner there,
He went straight.
he would have gone straight. And then he would have gotten down there, no one's there.
Mm.
And he's either gone somewhere or he turned around and came back up. See, he should have just looked at the sign as well, because I mean, this is Old Bulga Road. He knew we were doing Old Bulga Road.
So that's the road we took, because obviously Santiago wasn't waiting for us at the top of the hill. No dust, no bike, no angry Colombian waving his arms about. I was hoping to find him bogged to the axles down here, but of course he wasn't, and I must admit that Anthony had the only real sensible idea of the entire day. Maybe we should go back. Anything could have happened. And you know what? He was right. My biggest regret is that I didn't listen to him. We should have turned the bikes around back up there and backtracked. Better still, Anthony should have pushed the issue harder. Maybe shouted, maybe blocked the trail, maybe slapped me over the helmet. So really, maybe it's his fault. Tongue firmly in cheek, of course. So once we rode out of this valley for the second time today, we jumped back onto the Putty Road. Did I mention I hate the Putty Road? And we pointed our bikes in the direction of Yengo National Park, where we would catch up with Matt, Mal and Shonky Sean, and hopefully Santiago. But of course we didn't. Luckily we had phone service, so I did the sensible thing, called home base. First Jackie, then Santiago's wife Ange, but no one had heard from him. Then, just as the worry started to set in, a group of riders heading out told us they saw a lone rider fitting Santiago's description. Relief at last, so naturally we headed off in hot pursuit, because this was the first real clue we had, proof that Santiago was out in front of us, probably trying to catch us, thinking we'd left him behind, which in actual fact we had. But again, hindsight's a wonderful thing. At the time it felt like he was just up ahead. Looking back, it turns out we were chasing a ghost. So here we were now riding as a group of 4. Yesterday we were the magnificent 7. This morning the adequate 5. And now just 4 blokes hanging on to the plot by a thread. On the one hand, we were convinced we were going to catch Santiago. On the other, we'd agreed that next time we had signal, we'd check in with Jackie and Angie. And where would that be? Why, Finchley Lookout, the place only I could find yesterday. As we hurtled through the bush like headless chooks, Ange was glued to her computer, desperately trying to track Santiago's whereabouts, zooming in, refreshing, hoping his T7 would magically ping its location. Or better still, track his Garmin signal. Yep, Santiago had a Garmin inReach, which should have made finding him a breeze. Except, of course, for one tiny detail. They don't work if you haven't paid the subscription. Now we were riding for two reasons: to try and catch our mate, to get rid of that gnawing sense of dread and replace it with total relief, or at least to reach phone reception and hear that Santiago had finally checked in. That's the headspace we were at, where we started pushing harder than you should. The throttle goes a bit further, the corners get a bit looser, and the chances you take get a bit sillier. It's the danger zone of adventure riding. You're not just battling the track anymore, you're battling your own nerves. Because it's amazing how quick you can ride when you're trying to find a missing mate. We were close to giving Ange and Jackie more patience than they bargained for. This is when the real risks creep in, pushing too fast, losing concentration, or worse, coming face to face with another vehicle on the wrong side of the trail. Eventually we made it to Finchley Lookout, which felt like mission control. Phones out, waiting for good news, but there was none. No one had heard a thing. Fortunately, Ange had been working the case back home, glued to her computer, and managed to roughly pinpoint where Santiago was. The bad news? He was way back, somewhere between that first brutal hill climb and the last turn-off we'd passed. After 3 hours of searching, calling, hoping, our group split once again. Anthony and I geared up for a desperate rescue mission. As for the other two boys, one went to help a mate retrieve a bike from the bush, and the other had to go home and shampoo his beard. So down from 7 to 5 to 4, and now just 2 riders charging out of the bush and on towards Broke to find our fallen comrade. The Magnificent Seven? Forget it. This was the desperate duo, and the clock was ticking. But before Anthony and I could even make it to the town of Broke to fuel up, Ange rang with news. She'd finally heard from Santiago. He was in an ambulance on his way to John Hunter Hospital. Our rescue mission had just shifted gears. No longer a search and save, now it was a retrieval mission. Our rescue mission has now turned into a retrieval mission. There's only Anthony and I left. Anthony and I now left Broke and headed towards Bulga, ready to jump back on the putty road and dive back into the bush to find Santiago's bike. Meanwhile, Ange, absolute legend, was already leaving Sydney with another one of our mates, Andreas. They were heading to our place on the coast to grab Santiago's bike trailer, then drive the 2 hours north to meet us. The plan was simple. Anthony and I would somehow find and retrieve the bike. How? Your guess was as good as ours. We didn't have a winch, a trailer, or a clue, but what we did have was enthusiasm, and that's half the battle, right?
Righto, let's see if we can find it.
Alright, see how you go with the water crossing.
You've got it pinned on there? Righto, let's go.
This was adventure riding meets logistics nightmare. Santiago's bike was somewhere deep in the bush, and we were about to prove that optimism is not a recovery strategy. We had no tools, no plan, and no idea. But hey, we had heart. Unfortunately, heart does not tow a Tenere. And to make things even more interesting, we now had 2 conflicting pin drops for Santiago's bike. One from Ange and one from Mad Mal, who was absolutely certain his pin was spot on. We double checked, compared maps, and after much head scratching, decided to go with Mal's pin. And credit where it's due, the madman was right. And somewhere amongst all this chaos, I even managed to speak to Santiago while he was in the ambulance. He told me that he'd stacked it on that big first hill we rode in the morning. So there you go. 2 pins, 1 hill, and a missing Tenere somewhere in the middle. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything already had, so at least we were consistent. And eventually we found Santiago's bike. Well, technically it's his wife's bike, but there you go, we found it.
Here I am at the crash scene with Anthony.
427.
We may be able to use this, we may not.
427 on a Saturday. It's
That's where his bike is. At least it's not too far down.
yeah. Chances of getting it out, 0.
You reckon we should get that out?
Just write it up.
I'll put my key in it.
Anthony and I were like two detectives in an Outback CSI episode. But as hard as we tried, we couldn't work out how it even happened where it did. What we did know was we were not getting the Tenere out tonight. It was buried deep, the track was rough, and daylight was running out fast. So Anthony and I rode back down to the Putty Road, and again we headed towards Bulga to get phone service. After the day we'd had, even the bush seemed to sigh in relief. Santiago was safe, the bike would have to wait, and we were absolutely spent. Besides, Anthony and I still had a 2-hour ride ahead of us, and it was no good retrieving a motorcycle in the dark. So we all agreed that Angie and Andreas would stay at our place for the night, get some rest, and we'd tackle the retrieval first thing in the morning.
Sun's going down, and we've got a 2-hour ride home. Perfect.
Anthony and I would arrive home that night after spending 12 hours in the saddle. My backside had filed for divorce, my brain was running on fumes, and I was pretty sure the T7 seat had permanently reshaped my arse. It was one hell of a day, full of lessons, chaos, and the kind of fatigue that only comes from riding, worrying, and hoping your mate's okay. But Santiago wasn't okay. The following day, before Andreas and I even got close to his bike, Ange called us from the hospital. Santiago had broken his back in 4 places, had a broken neck, and bleeding on the brain. But before everyone collectively gasps, just like a Thai massage, this story has a happy ending. Because if there's one thing tougher than a Tenere 700, it's gotta be Santiago. It certainly was a worry, but at least Andreas and I couldn't dwell on it for too long. We had a bike to rescue. Some people spend their Sundays at the beach or sleeping in, not us. We were about to attempt Operation T7 Recovery. Unlike yesterday's recovery mission, where we didn't have a winch, a trailer or a clue, today we had all 3. Andreas and I were feeling confident. We had coffee in our veins, fuel in the ute, and enough cable and fittings to start a small towing company. The mission brief was simple. After finding the Tenere, we would somehow drag it out. Santiago's mighty Tenere 700 had taken a beating. But like a typical Yamaha, it was built like a tank, designed to survive its owner. Andreas manned the winch like a pro, I wrestled the bike into position, and between grunts, swearing, and a few questionable physics decisions, we began to drag the Tenere from the crash site. As we started winching the Tenere out, we finally got a good look at the damage, and mate, she had an absolute shocker. The front windscreen gone, completely KO'd. The dash display ripped clean off and dangling by wires like a Christmas ornament. There was brake fluid everywhere. It looked like the poor bike was bleeding out on the battlefield. The Garmin InReach was smashed, but the strangest thing of all was the bolt. A massive bolt, just sitting perfectly on a bush rock like it had been gently placed there by the crash fairy. And for the life of us, we could not work out where it came from. We checked everything, engine mounts, bars, triples, pegs, subframe, nothing missing. Anyway, the main thing was the big girl was now on the trailer. Operation T7 recovery was a success.
Retrieval complete.
As we drove out of the bush, straps tight and morale high, we finally let the adrenaline wear off. 2 massive days, 1 ambulance, 1 rescue, 1 recovery. 2 days later, I was feeding Santiago like a baby bird in hospital. As Anthony, Ange, wife Jackie and I talked and laughed, we couldn't help but think that in all seriousness, Santiago was lucky. It could have been so much worse. But if there's one thing tougher than adventure bikes, it's adventure
I
riders.
just thought I'd be feeding Santiago. That's a bond that you can never break.
Now if you know Santiago, you know he's always calling for drama. Every ride, every video, every moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we love him. I'm artist Wayne Dowson, and thanks for watching, everyone.